Di Sanche Doje Chamfo. Namo 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 Shi Jamo Ni Fo. 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 Namo Quan Chen Pusa. 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 Namo Quan Chen Pusa.
We often talk about taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and within Vajrayana and Mahayana, we take refuge in the teacher and the Buddha and the Dharma and the Sangha. So I want to talk about this distinction and these differences today, because sometimes a disciple of Buddha has sincere belief, and they have profound confidence in the path, but the refuge in the Sangha is lacking for them. And because of this, it creates problems of accomplishment. So I'm reading from the Dharma that every Buddhist must follow by Dharma King Pamu. Today, I remember when we first started reading excerpts, or actually we just stopped because we said it won't be anybody left sitting out there if we read too much of this book. But now when we pick it up and we read it, it's like, of course, of course. And so it just lets us know how we have changed. And it's important to see this progress that we have so that it's like the sun is shining and you want the sunshine on your face, but you put the umbrella up. And it's not that the sun is not shining, not that it doesn't have the power and capacity to, to bring its rays to you. But although you want it and you're in the presence of it, you put the umbrella up, it blocks it. So it's of our own doing. And we said, well, I'm doing everything. I'm doing my practice, I'm doing my cultivation, I'm reading. So I want to take this opportunity for us to look at a subject that I think is a kind of touchy subject, particularly people whose culture is very individualized. And see if this chapter makes a difference. Like when those of you who have the book, is chapter 6. And I think this is this online?
I don't think it's,
Oh,
I don't know that there's an ebook.
and not an
version, but
ebook.
you can buy it.
Too bad, but the book is available for purchase.
What's the name of it?
The Dharma that every Buddhist must follow. Well, if you think Buddha Master's tough, this one, you gotta be ready. You gotta be ready for it. But we've been learning about principles over these past 2 years, and it's amazing that once you align with the principle, because principle is aligned with purpose, and purpose falls into alignment or produces attainment. And because we don't really have a deep understanding of the why of some things, or something to contemplate to give us a why, we don't fully appreciate something that we think is a prohibition, or something that we think is holding us back, or something we think is trying to control us or to rule over us. We have a hard time appreciating it without understanding the principle behind it and knowing the fruit of being able to align with it. So there are so many Buddhist disciples who practice the Dharma, yet there are quite few who actually attain liberation. Additionally, there are countless Buddhist disciples who practice the Dharma, yet who reincarnate in the hell realm or one of the other two lower paths after they die. That would be in the animal realm or the hungry ghost realm. Now, sometimes you'll see the Asura realm below the human realm, sometimes above the human realm, depending on which school you look at. But I think Pamu places it above the human realm because there are some attainments that they have, but because they're not perfected, those attainments can still cause harm, just like we can have good qualities, right? And even with our good qualities, we still also have some not so good qualities, and so we harm people. We harm people even when we have an intention to do right by people. I'm not necessarily saying that the Surs have that intention. I can say they have developed in a certain way that certain capacities arise because of the state that they're in. But but that state is not a stable virtuous state. So it says all people who learn Buddhism and who cultivate themselves should have a respectful heart. So that's what I'm talking about today. what a respectful heart is and how it relates, or what is its correspondence, to our three karmas of thought, speech, and action. A respectful heart. And in this discourse, it helps, it separates or breaks out for us the various elements of respect. And one of the elements is devotion. So devotion can be, I remember Buddha Master saying one time, devotion is almost like the highest practice that you can do. The problem is devotion allows for an attachment to something, to a being, or to, there's the attachment there. And because one cannot get rid of that attachment, they can't reach the highest attainments. But when we understand it from the perspective of a respectful heart, with devotion being one aspect, then we can benefit from devotion. So he talks about, or she, in this case, Pamu, talks about devotion being an element of respect, and whether or not one has confidence and not doubt in the teacher. And we talk about the teachings. It's important to pay attention to the teachings. And if you see I understand my teachings, see my teachings, you see me. But it doesn't mean then that we don't have to pay any attention to the teacher, because the respectful heart emerges with the speaker of the teachings. And one can say, well, I have respect for the teachings, so I don't have to have respect for the teacher. And you don't. It's just, I'm going to give you the reasons why it benefits your practice, though. It's like so that you can deeply reflect upon what benefits, or things a respectful heart brings to your cultivation. And it says, when we are searching for the Dharma and looking for things, one thing that holds or breaks down or prohibits or throws up an obstacle is when we are following or trying to follow the words of our teacher, and yet we don't altogether approve of our teacher's teaching. If another teacher who we maybe don't know all the teachings of, but we find something in them that we like, or something that resonates with our ordinary mind, then we will put that teaching before our teacher's teaching. And in that way, we can say, oh, well, the teacher's not perfect, so I don't have to hold everything that he says is true. And I can embrace the teachings of this teacher. That's sort of the way our surface mind looks at it. But what it really does for us is we are making a decision, and we're devaluing the teachings of the teacher. So how could we address this dilemma then? So one way is when I run across something that Buddha Master says, and I feel that some other way has benefited me in my life. Not I feel I can know another way has benefited me. I never say, well, that's wrong. I don't agree with that. I never disagree with that. I just say, I can acknowledge that I have tried something else that works for me, but I never judge that teaching. And it's a very subtle thing, But now I'm talking about how to make quick progress now and how to make sure progress. So take as much of this as you want, or don't take any of it. But it's a difference in the flavoring in the mind that he said you should have the view, if you're gonna study a teacher's teachings, you should have the view that he is the one that knows. I do not know. He didn't have any problems telling that to his disciples. He wasn't arguing with them. He didn't, he didn't want to go to, I had a teacher, my teacher said this, he didn't do that. It's having the kind of respect. We're talking about different kinds of respect now. Having that will benefit you, having the kind of respect that if you think that your teacher has some awakening or more than you, and then to be able to just hold that, even if you have to let it sit on the shelf, but not passing judgment on it. And that's just the way a mind works, and that's the difference in having a kind of arrogance. Well, I know, like I'm gonna trust my own judgment. I'm not saying that you should not use your own judgment. I'm saying what you should not do is pass judgment on your teacher, because it makes you have doubt in your own teacher. And then the things that you're trying to take up, the things that you actually do agree with, the things that give you joy, even if you can't perfect them, you're like, I intellectually understand that. I can't do it yet, but I understand it. You're diminishing your own capacity by the injection of a doubt and a conceit concerning your teacher. And so it causes one to repeatedly or constantly give rise to doubt and engage in speculation and comparison. So the danger is the speculation and comparison that develops from wrangling with your teacher. Better to just leave it. Sometimes Buddha Master will say something and I'll say, okay, well, I'm gonna just leave that right there. This is what he said, and that doesn't always mean that I disagree with it. I take the position, I don't understand, I have not fully comprehended how to use that teaching, when to use that teaching, where to use that one, who to use that one with, and that's a better way, because then I don't run into any confidence problems. I don't run into any doubt issues. I can hold it all, and when in a good heart. So she says all practitioners should deeply reflect upon what benefits or other things a respectful heart can bring to one's cultivation. This respectful heart is extremely complex, because it has to consider the arising of producing of doubt with the teachings that you are deeply studying and practicing. It has to do with the development of indifference, and then we'll talk about the benefits of the devotion that it inspires. It says, such is how wonderful a respectful heart is. In a few words, the function of a respectful heart is that even if a practitioner has attained the state of Bodhi, he must still perfectly fuse this state with a heart of respect. It says, only then will he be able to walk the Bodhisattva path and save living beings. This is all the more true to attain ending the cycle of birth and death. It says when you really look at it, attaining the ending of the cycle of birth and death is just an ordinary attainment compared to the state of the enlightenment of the bodhisattvas. So it's not a matter of the Vajra master or the bodhisattva's teachings or a Buddha's teachings. It's not so much what they give us that can help us to enter into these states. It's more of a matter of, because they have the state, but it's more of a matter of our own hearts corresponding to them. And when we do, we are catapulted into the state that they're in. Otherwise, we're bringing down their brightness and their light into our state. But the object is for us to be catapulted into their state, and this correspondence is it's indirect, or this capacity is in direct correspondence to how respectful our heart is towards them. As a matter of fact, the ancients said that if everyone could see everyone else as a Buddha and a Bodhisattva, your work would be done. So it constantly goes back to our own mind and our own perceptions and what we see. The respect one has in one's heart may reach the level where one is able to treat every living being no different from Kuan Yin Bodhisattva. And if one thought and acted in such a manner, one would unreservedly offer all of one's actions or thoughts and possessions to anyone that needed anything. So we here, scraping and scrapping and trying to cultivate patience and trying to cultivate, generosity and trying, I'm talking about perfecting the paramitas. All throughout the teachings, there is the teaching, there's the principle, there's the long route, there's the middling route, and there's the hack, there's the shortcut. So whichever one you can receive it. And sometimes you have received one, but later it dawns on you, you have that insight that I could take this route or I could take this route. And this route is a quicker route. And maybe this route is not about we talk about in the Bible, in the book of Malachi, I believe, is where they teach about the tithe. And it's the chapter on that starts out, will a man rob God? And it says, well, how have we robbed you? And he said, tithes and offerings. Bring all your offerings into the storehouse so that there'll be meat in my house, and prove me herewith if I'll not open up the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing that you'll not have room enough to receive. Okay, so that's where it is. And so some who could accept that as a true saying, their heart of generosity corresponds with the King of love always giving, and their heart, and they immediately enter into that state. Joe and I were talking today about, I said, like, some things I need the other end of it. I'm a little too far on one end, and some people need to practice coming from this side, and some need to practice coming from that side. I said, so sometimes I give when I maybe giving it is not the best thing to do. But for me, because I don't consider anything as mine, I don't mind giving it. I believe that when I give, that what's needed for me will come to me. That's my basic level of respect. And so the generosity is there, but it wasn't always there. I had to learn from Malachi. And so then I learned from the long way about tithing and why you tithe and how to cultivate something. And it took many, many, many years, but I did get it. But when I read this, I see a heck. If I thought of you as Jesus, then if I detected a need, my whole heart would long to give it to you. If I saw um, Busita as Shakyamuni Buddha and she had a need, I would give everything to her just because of the correlation and the level of the respectful heart that I have for her. And so he's showing us another way that we can rotate our mind so that we can develop a certain type of heart. I wouldn't argue with her. I wouldn't fight with her. I would, even if I disagreed, I'm like, I'll just leave it because the cultivation of the respectful heart. So that's a way, cultivating a respectful heart, even if I thought she was wrong, cultivating a respectful heart to just let that be, to still give her respect, would begin to eradicate or subdue anger in me. It's a way that it would drive anger far from me. It depending on the kind of respect that I have for her. And that goes for somebody out in the street, a stranger, one of them carrying a poster, somebody with a flag in their yard, but if I respected them with the respect as with the same respect I have for the Buddha, so then maybe that's something I have to tell myself when I walk back, when I see something or when I hear something. How am I feeding into the energy of situations? What things am I mumbling to myself? What things am I saying to myself? And it is what I am saying measuring up to the principles of the Dharma. If they're not, then that's where I need to focus my area, not regurgitating, or rebelling against. I mean, actually, I guess you could say that this is to hold ahimsa or harmlessness in the face of threat is the strongest kind of opposition that one can bring forward. I mean, it actually is. And when I don't understand that at the moment, when I'm not feeling it, then I have to know it, and I have to say it to myself. I have to say it to myself at the times that I need it, not when I'm feeling strong or not when I'm feeling compassionate, but I have to say it to myself all the time until that kind of respect for that truth can arise in me, and then a certain kind of uh, correspondence can take place into us. It says one reason for this is an analogy would be to think of the master's radiant empowerment, like 10,000 rays of light shining down, and this disciple's whole body and whole mind becomes purified. And under this intense and limitless empowerment, negative karma and impurities carried over from many previous lifetimes disappear without a trace. So there is the truth of karma, just like there is the truth or the law of karma, like there is the law of gravity. But everything doesn't come down. There's another law that can be applied that allows it to stay up or to go from down to up. And so if you apply, if you only know the law of gravity, then you stay earthbound. But if you learn and meet the conditions of the law of aerodynamics, then you can supersede the law of gravity. And so in that case, so we can live a life of tit for tat, where we're, producing a negative karma that's going to have a repercussion that we're not going to like in our life, and so if the tables will be balanced, right? But another way is to consider the purification of the master from the light of their wisdom. I hope you understand what I'm saying today. This is not a do whatever I want, and because I love the master. Because to love the master is to hear the teachings, take them to heart, put them into practice, to follow them, not to just talk about them, but we have to actually do them. And so understanding what enlightenment is and the capacity of the master to enlighten and the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas to enlighten us, it's only by virtue of allowing their presence in our life and getting a suntan from the ray of the master's tanning machine. It's kind of like that, Or I could go and sit out in the sun, for a long time. There are many ways I can get a tan. Well, I don't tan, but there's many ways that you can tan. And some ways are fast, some than others, and some are dangerous also because of other things that go with the method that you use. So when we recognize the empowerment of the master, and that's what the empowerment of the master is. It's just being in the presence of their state, open and receptive with a respectful heart. And you got to do your cultivation, and you got to do your practice, and so I'm adding one more thing so we don't think it's just one thing that we have to do. I was talking to someone and he was telling me like what his practice is, but he has no and the practice is just doing the chanting and all of these things. And I'm like, that's wonderful that you're doing that, but there's more. That's a lot that you have to do. It's like driving a car, and you got to do a little bit of multitasking when you're driving a car. You can't like just look straight ahead. You got to be looking in the rear view mirror or the side mirror. You got to be ready to put your foot on the gas or the brake. You got to be looking for people and things in your way. I mean, there's a lot of different things. And although you can do one excellently, you still get out here and kill yourself or other people if you don't have all of these other, aspects into play. So I'm just adding another aspect. He says that in this way, we obtain, that's how we receive the empowerment or the mind stream of the master. And we're able to totally absorb the wisdom, the blessings, the accomplishment, and the realizations that the master has. So someone said to me the other day, it's not about the man, or it's about his teachings. And in a sense, yes, that's true. But the teachings are the teachings of the man. You cannot respect the teachings and not respect the man. You can, you just can't. You can say you do, but you don't. There is and that's why but some people get enamored with, say, the man, but they don't take hold to the words that he said, so they don't follow the teachings or take hold to the teachings. They just the man, like it's all there. The difficulty with that is that by virtue of the light, you will get the tan, right? But the tan in time will fade. The tan in time will fade. So you can get a really strong transmission, and some people get such a strong transmission, they almost literally lose their stuff, you know. And it's not that they didn't really get something, but they can't keep it, they can't maintain it, and they cannot build upon it, because there is the respect maybe for that great saint that they went to see or whatever, but over time that fades. It's not lasting. That's why we need the teachings to take to heart in addition. When we're not contentedly learning, um, and when I say your teacher or your master, I'm talking about one that you honestly feel has a true spiritual legacy. It's not like everybody calls themselves a teacher is a teacher, and not everybody who is a teacher is your teacher. And so there's things that go into this, and we have to use some discernment. And it says, well, if we're stuck in a vidya, how much can we rely upon our discernment? Is you just have to see how the things you have put into practice, if they're working in your life, if with you're earnestly putting the teachings into practice in your life, and it's not working, you need a different set of teachings, or at least you have to evaluate, what am I missing? What am I not doing? That's why we don't even have probably 1% of all Buddhists feel that people can get enlightened today. And why is that? And yet we say we have confidence in this. We say we believe in it, and there's something missing. Either it doesn't have the power and the capacity, or it does. So first, I'm looking at myself. How well am I walking in? How honest am I walking in what I say that I'm walking in? And this I'm talking about on a living level now. I'm not talking about on a rule level, but I'm talking like just as I'm going through the ordinary conduct of my day. So I'm always open to see something that I haven't seen before, or to think about something like, there's a way I hold a certain view, but is there only one way that I can hold that view? There may be another way to see that same thing, depending on a different circumstance. Or maybe there's another way that I can hold both of these simultaneously, even though they appear to be diametrically opposed, they're not diametrically opposed. It's just because you need this and you need this. If I'm wearing, not wearing a single dress, I'm wearing a two-piece, I need the top and I need the bottom. Or I'm gonna be half naked. And so So sometimes, we just make things so concrete, that we can't see things that are right in front of us. And the analogies are like innumerable. We could truly, we don't have to have a certain spiritual language. We could, if we could perceive the truth of ordinary things, we could awaken. But because we don't see them, we have to extricate and create a kind of container in the beginning, that helps us to clearly see what we miss in our ordinary examination. But as time goes on, it becomes so simple, like the Dharma's all around me, and it's more like the Dharma, the teachings actually just point us to all of these things that are already around, already plain to see, but because of our own obscurations, we have not been able to see it. And so having when you allow the master's heart to dwell safely within, your own heart, you're in one place. It's not like it's not like you're in this place and he's in another place. It's like he's right here. So when we talk about the mandala, and we talk about this offering that we do, it's about letting us know, it's like that setting the table, of our heart, constantly bringing it into ourselves, it's not the altar, that's the great mandala, but it's the mandala of the heart, because it's here where, the master has to dwell safely in order to help you, in order to support you. And so it says, think of it as being physically in one place and your heart being in another place. And then naturally, they would be unable to give rise to confidence in the teachings. It says, when we're not careful with this, the more we begin to learn, the more we begin to hold a slight amount of contempt for the master, or contempt for the teacher, as the tan begins to fade, then as days pass, you begin to regard the master as no more than an ordinary person, no different than yourself. I never think in terms of respect. I never think in terms of myself being equal to the master. But on the other side, in terms of respect, I see him as the mirror or picture of perfection that I can enter into. And this is a distinction of how we are holding, how can I say this? It's a distinction of us entering to the aspiration of perfection rather than denigrating the object of perfection, ergo we can never reach that perfection. It's and it gets tricky with the more we know. So Pamu said, why do I not receive ordinary practitioners, ordinary Rinpoches, ordinary Dharma teachers as my disciples? It is because they possess the mental hindrance of comparing one master favorably and to another master. As soon as they would become my disciples, they would look down upon the master they previously followed. Then, because of me, they would produce negative karma by maligning their previous master. Thus, rather than receiving ordinary practitioners as disciples, it would be better if such people just studied books and discourses. So just having the good fortune, the good karma to come into the presence of a master, if you don't know the value of it, you don't know the value of it. But if one is open to cultivating to a respectful heart, they can come to know the value. And then one's three karmas will begin to correspond with the teachings. The teachings won't be such a struggle. We don't have to try so hard. It becomes the supreme thought in one's mind, so that even when you fail to exemplify it, you still have the confidence that it is possible, so you're still holding that hope and looking forward to the time that you will, even if it's not right now. This begins to take the great burden off of us to try to effort so much. More of our efforting can go into confidence or the encouragement to see your teacher as the Buddha and see all people as your teacher. Then if your effort went into that, that's going to be an easy way that one begins to gradually develop respect. I look at the time when I was growing up and we were taught how to respect adults. I mean, we respected all adults. They didn't have to be our parents. We respected all of them, but not so much today. I mean, kids don't even respect their own parents. So the times are different. And so we can understand why there would be, and it's not the first time this has happened. I mean, everything is runs on cycles. And so there have been times in the past that children were stiff-necked and belligerent in general, in mass, because when certain teachings of principles of respect decline. And they are, I mean, right now we're in such a free fall, it's not even children, we would always call them babies raising babies, but it's not just that, but we're in such a free fall now that disrespect has more respect than respect. And this is amongst adults, and it's going to lead to some place. So wherever it's leading, I don't want to go because I see the end of it. So I can see some temporary relief with me acting in a certain way, defending myself in a certain way, having certain things to say, voicing my perspective, in an aggressive, in your face way. But the end of that, I mean, I have enough vision to see that we don't have to go far down that road before we're setting ourselves up for total destruction. I surely can't expect the one who doesn't have the Dharma to be the one that keeps me in line. So I have to work, I have to be the one, so it might feel like a suffering way, but when we talk about wanting to save all beings, when that aspiration is really true and not just the ones I like or the ones who are doing what I want to do, we get a long-term view of what it takes to begin to shift and change people, and that starts with it starts with ourselves, Um, I didn't fully understand this this teaching, this principle, when I discovered Buddha Master. I read a lot. I read a lot, and there were many patriarchs' teachings that I read, and I took them to heart, but I didn't understand. And so when I met Buddha Master, I wanted everybody to see Buddha Master, because just the teachings like rang true. Whether it's raining or whether the sun is shining, the difference, you know. Um, you may not be able to scientifically explain stuff like the distance we are from the sun and the angle that causes, the sun to be closer to the earth in the winter, and yet it's colder. Like all that stuff, I don't know that. But I know when I'm in the presence of sunshine versus rain. And so it had such an impact. I just want everybody. I wanted everybody to come and hear, and some came to hear, and but some could not receive because their karmas were not aligned. Yeah. So I understand that now, and so I'm not in a hurry. I'm no longer in a hurry to introduce the teachings to everybody, because not everybody is ready to hear it, and it causes me to set up a round of negative karma with them because they're not ready to hear it. But for one who decides within themselves, well, I don't know about this, but I'm willing to look at it and ask myself inside, is this a way that I can grow and develop? And when one finds within themselves, no, this is a hindrance to me, then I wish them well. I want them to find their perfect teacher. Mhm. If one hasn't had the opportunity to meet that teacher in the Monikaya form, but there is the affinity for the teaching that's manifested through the life of that Nirmanakaya, then when they read the words, even when they don't understand all the words, there will be some nutriment in there that will allow them, take small bites until they become to know the personage of the Nirmanakaya. Some of you have never met Buddha Master, but you have met him through his teachings. And it's like you know the man. I never walked with Jesus of Nazareth because I wasn't born then. I don't think there was a incarnation of me then. There could have been, I don't know. But I met him through his words. I even met him through the words of Paul, who never met him.
Oh, I didn't know that, yeah. Paul never met him.
No, Jesus had already been crucified. Paul's getting ready to go crucify some Christians, or and Jesus speaks to him. And so, why are you persecuting folks? He said, who that? And it's like, and the light of that truth was so blinding. But the thing is that Paul was sincere. He was sincere about what he was, maybe sincerely wrong from my perspective,
Sincere in his badness.
Yeah, I mean, he was trying to do a favor, getting rid of and so these heretics, getting rid of these heretics. That's what I'm saying. So maybe I feel grateful that I found a teacher, because in some ways I was a heretic, and some of the things that I held to, some of the things that I embraced, they were just wrong. Some of the ways that I think even today, just wrong, and but here's someone who has the capacity, the ray is so strong that it can penetrate my ignorance and give me light, or take me to the light of my actual unimpeded, unobstructed nature, and find, see, it's there, it's right there. You had it all along, it's right there. But you gotta go deep. And so when we talk about a respectful heart, can be a shallow kind of respect, and there can be a deep kind of respect. It says, when you respect the master as if he were Shakyamuni Buddha, then the empowerment you do receive from the master is equivalent to that which you would receive from Shakyamuni Buddha. When you treat the teacher as if he is an ordinary person, then what you will receive as empowerment will only be the karma of an ordinary person. So there's part of responsibility on our side that we make this coming together what it is. It's not just all up to the teacher to like screw our head open like a jar and put something in. We create the moment of enlightenment. We co-create it together, the teacher and the disciple. He says, you then receive the empowerment that will only be the karma of an ordinary person if you think in your mind they are an ordinary person. And if you look in the world, we have our ideas about who we think should be listened to, who should be regarded. I'm not talking about spiritual matters now. I'm just talking about worldly matters. And one, you will think, because you have respect for them, they don't have to really know anything, but if you think they know something, you will listen to them, and so it's not always the true wisdom coming forward and that's standing alone, but is what you bring in terms of your own energy, clarity, concentration, here I won't use the word devotion. I think I forgot. I started to tell a story and I didn't finish. Did I tell?
How long ago was that?
Oh, no, no, today, because that part is really important about devotion.
Devotion can be the highest practice, but the attachment to one
Yes.
being or
Okay.
ultimately a hindrance.
Right.
Can be a hindrance.
Right. And that's it, because it's about confirmation, being conformed to the image of, but the image being conformed to the image of. So you have to have an image to conform to um it's like we call it a mirror, uh, so that you can see the perfected state, but you have to enter into it. As long as there is that image of the perfection and you'll never come to the fullness of the measure of the stature of that image or that one that you hold. So the dissolution, the dissolving one into another cannot occur. And so you will always have the yearning, because there's you yearning to be like them, or you yearning to have the wisdom that they have, or you wanting to have the attainment and the accomplishment to be able to do the things that they do. But there won't be the unification. Yeah, there won't be the unification. So that's the hindrance of seeing devotion as the highest aspect, rather than seeing it as a high aspect of cultivating the respectful heart. Because when the heart is truly perfected, then there is no difference. The differentiation is gone. The differentiation is gone. And it's not you and them. And so know that these practices are designed to, they're almost like walking out analogies, so that the mind gets some idea of where it's going, so that it won't throw up obstacles like, I don't want to go there. It's absolutely here, just take one step at a time. But stepping we do have to do, and we have to keep stepping. This is what helps us to not violate the principles, and not do things that we don't want to do, things we don't want to do, and yet we do them. At that moment, if one turns to the mandala of the heart in their respect for the teacher, then like that, they can enter into the teacher's mind, that mind that doesn't do that mind that doesn't want to do that mind that they want to be in, but they're not in it right now, So it's like stepping out of one's own mind, and it's like catching the elevator up. Want to go to the rooftop, just open the elevator, get in it, and go up. And so this practice is not for the teacher, it's not for the master, it's not Shakyamuni. Buddha doesn't need it, and Buddha master don't care, in the sense that you're doing anything for them. They're telling you about principles that have to be put into effect to get the most out of your practice. So when the empowerment you receive from the master is equivalent to that which you would receive from Shakyamuni Buddha. When you treat the master as if he were an ordinary person, then what you will receive as an empowerment will only be that the karma of an ordinary person. If you treat the master as someone lesser than yourself, as someone more foolish than yourself, this will not only result in your not receiving any empowerment at all, it will instead reduce your merit and blessings. And that's what's called paying a double penalty. So the principle of paying a double penalty is when you learn something thinking you know so much, and suddenly everybody in the room is dumber than you. This can be applied to spiritual things. This can be applied to worldly things. You see, because it's talking about how to have a respectful heart. You can't have a respectful heart just around spiritual things, but not around ordinary things. That would eliminate a lot of well, not differences in opinions, but how differences are resolved, how they're worked out and talked out. When one recognizes that they have a difference that they can't surmount, they need to check and go and do a respectful heart practice, and then come back and talk again. With the aid of this respectful heart, one becomes able to better absorb the teachings. The teachings then can cause him in any completely accidental situation to look within himself, give rise to his own bright, our intrinsic bright awareness, and understand the principles of the Dharma. At such time, that is how one experiences a feeling of light peace or even great peace in a situation. And that will give you more confidence in the Dharma and a deeper understanding of the level of the Dharma and of the master. It says this instantaneous introspection is due mostly to having a desire for and then cultivating a heart of respect. It also strengthens one's heart of respect. So there's this interdependent relationship between the two, which can cause the practitioner to become perfectly accomplished, to give rise to bright awareness, to realize the emptiness, the empty nature of things, and to be in total control as one wishes, and ultimately to attain control over one's own life and death. He will then naturally be able to treat the master with the purest of intentions and actions and thoughts, and abide easily by the teachings. Thus, his three karmas truly correspond with the teaching of the master. It can be said that our three karmas are pure then and undefiled. We can cultivate ourselves in any given situation. And since our three karmas are in correspondence with the teachings, with the Buddha, with the teacher, and we clearly understand the true meaning of the Dharma, having this kind of attitude will root out half believing, half doubting. It'll uproot half serious and half indifferent. And then the things of Buddha Dharma will become as important as worldly matters are to us. It breaks down a guarded mindset a suspicious mind. It breaks down wariness with their teacher, like if you have a suspicious mind, or they want something from you, or they're trying to do something. I mean, that's why he tells you, right? I'm definitely trying to inculcate your mind. I just tell you right up front, so nobody has to say he's brainwashing. If I don't want to be washed, don't read his stuff because, it washes my brain, and I come away with a different idea of things. But if I like the idea that I have, then don't read that stuff because it'll throw you into a tizzy, because it'll definitely challenge how you hold things. But then you can decide. I tell you, ignorance is not bliss. So it says, because we act like this, we treat certain people a certain way and others another way. So we're extremely cautious in front of some people that we want to think we're good people, or sometimes I know when I of course, the first time I went to see Buddha Master, I didn't know what to expect. And, and I was gonna tell him about all the stuff we're doing and what we got and we can, I'm already, to offer my 100, and as Ozzy laughed about it so much, she's like, okay, I know I'm a chicken. When I get in front of him, I can't hardly speak. She gonna take me in there, and I'm gonna tell him what we all gonna do, what me and Ozzy gonna do. And when I walked in there and looked into his eyes, all I could do was fall on my face, and because when I looked into his eyes, there was no end. And this is on a physical, human side. But if you encounter something like that, I mean, like, you just have to decide within yourself what your heart can take. But when all I could do was fall on my face, I could just blubbering. I couldn't hardly say anything, you know. Um, and that's how it affected me. So when I took some other people another time, and we're all waiting, I like him because he's on my kind of time schedule. So we're sitting out in tents. They know he's gonna be late, so they got tents all up. You can sit out until it's time, until he actually appears in the Dharma Assembly Hall. And when he finally comes, you're sitting out there 2 hours waiting, because he's handling Dharma business. That's and then there's the call. Everybody takes off running and running into the temple, quickly, and dives on the floor, And they would look at it and say, wait, something wrong with this. But, that was just the respect of the heart from those who knew him, who had the good fortune to meet him. There's some things that are more powerful than our ignorance. And allowing for that, has completely transformed my life and the life of others. And so he tells us that the reason why we have this kind of fear is that we think the master's going to ask us to do something we don't want to do. Going to ask us to give up something that we really want to keep. Ask us to take care of matters in a different way than we feel like we want to take care of them. or that the master will wrap mine with mine and see that they're telling lies, or like in my case with them, all what many times I can think about all the good things I've done or whatever, but in that moment I was unable to face my erroneous conduct, the good things I have not done, it's like the dirt seeing a bar of soap. It's like, uh-oh, is what it felt. It was a serious uh-oh. I goofed. Let me go back and get myself together. I come back in 3 weeks, because suddenly all the things I am preparing to go, I really tried to clear up things, things I needed to like come to reckoning about inside, things that I needed to acknowledge inside confessions, so I thought I did my whole laundry list before I went, expecting to meet a great, at least a great bodhisattva. And so I thought I was ready and I was clean when I went in. Ain't got nothing on me. And when I went in, I could see so many things. It's like right now, every night, karmic things are just coming, just falling like dominoes. And I see it. But if I had seen some of these things before now, I would not have had the heart to bear it. But now I can see them, because now I can bear it. There's more probably that I can't stand to see right now. But in the place where I am in my cultivation, I can see other matters. And I'm so glad that I know that there's more than one way for the karma to be resolved. There's a way beyond an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Of course, that saying actually means let the penalty meet the offense, but but how we take it, like you kill mine, I kill yours. But people have a hard time opening up their hearts to the master. And that's what I want to encourage you to do today, so that you can have the view of the master. And it's just like a transmission. And that view becomes your view, then you see what the master sees, you know what the master knows, and you can do what the master does. I think that's all I want to talk about today. It's the final analogy she gave is like having very fine sand and putting fine sand into a glass and stirring it up. The sand can be so fine that you can't really see it in the glass. But if you just set the glass aside, after a while, the tiny particles of sand will sink to the bottom. And so we know that the sand never did mix with the water. So hidden within this idea or this notion of respect is that we don't obscure don't hide our faults. Maybe don't show them all to me, but within oneself, one is ever vigilant to see and to know, so that they won't try to mix sand and water. And to take the confidence and to uproot false respect. Or superficial respect. He says this goes beyond right and wrong. He says we put it in the category of shallow and deep. The deeper your respect, the deeper your capacity for revelation. Now, I don't know why I've always had respect for teachers. I've always had respect for, spiritual teaching. So I don't know why that section, that chapter was so difficult for me, but it was difficult for me because I thought I already had the right of respect. So I felt a little bit offended, like you're going overboard in this talk, I even, although I know it takes all that, I was even taking a position it doesn't take all that, just simply because I was being called to go deeper, to go deeper. And so this is an invitation today for all of us to go deeper. It's like the difference in scuba diving and snorkeling. Anybody have anything you want to share, please feel free. Yes.
I have a question. I heard you say that the master is the mirror of perfection that I can enter into.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking that the master knows my true nature and shows it to me.
Mhm.
Is that,
Yeah, he says he just points you to it,
yeah. Mhm.
So this is what it takes. It's like you want directions and you pull up to somebody asking for directions and you don't roll the window down. You know? Yeah.
Yeah, analogies are really important.
So we don't have to, everything is not as hard as we think. That's what I'm saying. Now, baby, trust their parents, and they can be bad parents too. Like social services need to come and get that baby, but that baby will scream and kick and cry if you try to take them away from that parent. The baby has some kind of innate relationship. We have a relationship with our innate nature. The Buddha nature, we have relationship with it. But the connection is the teacher. You might have anything else?
Oh, one more
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking we have the capacity to see another's true nature. And if one does, then we would automatically have heartfelt respect.
Mhm. I think that it's a resonance. I can tell you there's more than like, it's a lot in that word see, because it's a resonance that is set up. And if you're a dullard, you might not feel the resonance. The more sensitive you are, the more you can feel the vibration, the more and the resonance is there. And it's something that is, but it's a kind of resonance that is not, if I can, it's not physical, although it impacts the physical, it's something way beyond that. Way beyond that. And that's not just for the fully enlightened master, that's what I'm saying. Because the one who has the blessings of the teacher to disseminate the teachings, for the teachings to pass down through, they also have it, and that's why we should not despise at any level, as long as it is a true teacher. We just have to work at being more respectful, whatever that means to you. And I've given some guidelines today that if we think through these, that it will really benefit us in our practice. It'll benefit us in our goal of accomplishment. Mhm.
Couple of things that I picked up are perfection. When you give that story about Paul, it made me realize that our ability to perfect personal integrity, for instance. So he had a great deal of integrity in his work.
Yeah.
Was driven by his belief system in kind of that system he was in. And his belief that he was doing good work for the state and I'm going to be good at what I do. So our ability to sort of, our integrity is limited by our belief. We can be good at anything. We can have integrity in anything. And if we believe it's the right thing to do, even if it's working for the mafia or whatever, right? That's a true thing. So, but what she's seems to be talking about here is, I wrote this teaching from Pamu is the teaching on equanimity and equal-mindedness toward all people and all beings. But we have to set our mind to the highest that we know and make that the basis for our work. And that's the challenge. So many people are following ideals in this world, and they're sort of getting what that ideal can get them, whether it's more money or whatever, and they may be in their belief in that drives them to act, and they may be the best at acting within that, and I'm doing the best for the country, whatever it is, because there's a belief there. But she's saying, set your mind to the highest, that of your teacher, who is the Buddha, and then consider everyone to be that. That's like the ultimate equal-mindedness, or, and they say that the Buddha's mind is equality mind.
Yes.
They don't see the differences that we struggle with in our lives. But anyways, those are the arcanes.
I mean, could you imagine that if your mind thought in these kinds of ways all the time, operating in this kind of mind state, how different your world would be, and if everybody was, or even if a significant portion was, or even if a minority portion was, the capacity to transform everything around us would be so different. It would be so different. And so this is to really encourage, the cultivation of a respectful heart, an equal-minded heart, considering every living being as a Buddha or Bodhisattva. It will change the way we function in the world. It's a funny you mentioned because I'm reading a mafia book right now. No thing against mafiosos. I'm just saying, but they are talking, this guy, he thinks he's like a really bad guy, because he's like he's the one who goes and
Enforcer.
enforcer, so he's very good at his job, and he says we live by 3 tenets, and one was family, honor, taking care of business, take care of business. If you don't take care of business, we take care of you. Whatever our agreement is, you hold to it, and I enforce that. So family, honor, and the one other thing, I think it might have been control, but they're the 3 tenets of their quote faith as as a group. And so they are, and then somebody comes and shows him, like you have all of these wonderful attributes. They just like over here though, like kind of bring them over into this arena, but that you're really a wonderful person. You just hold it, you just in the wrong section of the auditorium.
Like Paul,
Exactly,
like Paul.
exactly.
They just shift that and then boom. And Jesus knew that if he just.
He said, Paul, I can use.
Paul was ready.
Right. Yeah. So it's something like that. And I know there's controversies around everything historic, recorded. And so we have different views about, well, did Paul say that or was it, but if you just take it as the analogy, then you can really see a truth that you can hang your hat on that can shift you're from a ordinary mind state. And it's just so wonderful to know that, yeah.
Well, he obviously had the ability to take refuge. He had taken refuge in that system, this Roman system. He'd taken refuge in it. And it was a full participant with a firm belief. And then Jesus was able to shift all of that good stuff to shift that refuge over to, kind of more life itself or.
Yeah.
But he had all the tools, they just needed to be shifted in their focus. They used to say that all the time in the old days, in the ashram. People are really good at all these things, if you just shifted that to the Dharma, woo,
yeah,
you would fly with those skills.
So if anybody's listening today and they have an issue with Jesus and Christianity, no problem, just shift it over to whatever your spirituality is. You can understand example is still the same. All right, thank you. Somebody offer dedication, merit. Yes.
All the merit that we have accomplished today, and all the merit we accomplish in time to come, we offer all living beings everywhere so that they may realize the fruit of Buddhahood.
Thank you for coming.